Okay. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today inshallah ta'ala we'll be picking up from where we had stopped in the last lesson, where we start discussing concerning matters relating to al-qisas. So discussing matters regarding hudud, or matters regarding Islamic punishment and law. Then the author rahimahullah covering matters regarding al-hudud. So we had covered regarding certain matters regarding hudud, ahkam al-qisas. We have covered that bit. So we'll go to the next baba. Qisas fil atraf. That's the next bab.
Yeah, chapter.
Okay, so aywa. So before we go to the next bab, we were discussing last year regarding concerning certain shurut that should be in place regarding al-qisas. And of the things regarding that we discussed that a Muslim is not killed for a non-Muslim. And also we discussed, they have this book that is called Al-Bayan. So the book called Al-Bayan fil Madhahib, Imam Shafi, which is a book in Shafi fiqh, outside what we're discussing, outside the book of the Hanabila. But you can somewhat throw, there's a few discussion about some of these matters, where we discuss concerning one, they discuss لا يقتل المسلم بالكافر, that a Muslim is not to be killed for a non-Muslim. Then that's a call that is held by Jumhur of the ulama. But then he mentioned here regarding concerning that there's a view that he mentioned قال شابع والنخعي وأبو حنيفة يقتل المسلم بالذم, that a Muslim could be killed in the case that if the person is a dhimmi. So if a Muslim was to kill a dhimmi, that one who is like a Christian Jew in a Muslim state, such a person, if they were killed by a Muslim, then a Muslim could be killed as a form of qisas. And that's the position taken, as mentioned by Ash-Shabi, An-Naqai, and also Abu Hanifa, alayhim rahmatullah, jamihan. They mention, وَلَا يُقْتَلْ بِالْمُسْتَأْمَنِ, but one is not killed for the one who is musta'man, that the one that you have given some form of right to remain in a Muslim country. So the one who has been given that type of protection, then if he was killed by a Muslim, then the Muslim is not killed for him, but the one who is a dhimmi, which would be like a Christian or Yahud in the Muslim land, then those ones you could be killed for them. A Muslim could be killed for them. Then I mention رؤيا أن أبو يوسف أنه قال يقتل بالمستأمن. That also, again, Abu Yusuf of Sahib Abu Hanifa take the position that the musta'man, also the one who's given protection, that he could be killed for a Muslim could be killed for killing such a person. So they have those aqwal. We mentioned the evidence. We had mentioned the evidence yesterday, the evidence in the last lesson regarding qawl al-jumhur. Then he mentioned some other cases regarding, he mentioned qatl al-kafir, kafir thumma aslama. He gives some cases. A person who is a non-Muslim, kafir, who killed another kafir. Then during the trial, during the process, he accepts Islam. With me? So in that case, what's the ruling? So a non-Muslim killed a non-Muslim. But then the one who have commit the crime, that act, eventually he took his shahada, becomes a Muslim. And this is the really non-Muslims. So the initial cases, two Muslim and non-Muslim kills a non-Muslim. So in that case, you have qisas for them between themselves. So that would be that the non-Muslim, there would be qisas for him if he is guilty in the case of amd, right? But during the trial, during the process, before the punishment is handed down on him, the final punishment, he accepts Islam. Understand the case? Mm-hmm. So what's the case in that? So in that case, what happens? Is he now, the punishment, so in that case, I've said he's going through the process of the trial. Is he now to be, because now he's a Muslim, if he was to even be charged for that crime, would he be on the qisas or not? Meaning that his life could be taken or not. So you mentioned regarding, so that's concerning that type of case. So you mentioned that في قتل كافر كافر, that if a kafir was to kill a kafir ثم أسلم القاتل, then the murderer, he accepts Islam. أو جرح الكافر كافر, or he have injured a kafir, one kafir to another one, فمات المجروح, then the person who was injured eventually, that he died, ثم أسلم الجارح, and the one who committed the act, also he accepted Islam, قتل به, then he is to be killed. Now, that, so I mentioned that, so considered easy to be killed. He mentioned that قال أوزاعي, so he mentioned that جمهور of the ulama, so he mentioned that أوزاعي قال لا يقتل به, that person is not to be killed. So the one who accepts Islam, so initially was a non-Muslim, but then and commit a crime of murder, of killing someone, and then he accepted it, then eventually he accepted Islam before the punishment is handed on him or carried out, then Awza'i is not to be killed. Based upon, you see that it's not because that the punishment hasn't been carried out on that person and accept Islam, then at that stage that so it would be a Muslim now considered to be a Muslim, so it's not to be killed.
What if it becomes apparent he only took Shahada to...
There's a possibility, yes, I don't think it could be the case. So I said no, that so I mentioned that in this case, yeah, Jumhur of the ulama, all that is to be killed. So I think that, so it may go back to in certain cases that is a discretion for the Qadi, or it is one policy that they mentioned that in that case that you look at the person regarding the time that the act was committed, what was his hal then? The time that he committed the act, was he then a Muslim or a non-Muslim? Then you act, then the ruling is based upon his hal, his condition or his state then regarding his faith. At that stage, what was he, Muslim or non-Muslim? So he might say Islam, alhamdulillah, that's good for him, but as for the punishment, then it still carries through of qisas, even though he accepted Islam later. So you have those type of cases. So you have case where a person may take the shahada if they know, for example, that as a call of he's not to be killed. He comes to know, if I was to take my shahada, then I'm not going to be killed because now I'll be treated as a Muslim. And in that case, the Muslim would not be killed for that person. Then said, I took my shahada, so as I said, as a way to escape the punishment. Now, and those things, you understand, so those things would be to see, you understand, so if it's a matter of ijtihad, then either for the judge to see, is this person, I would say, no, is he like sincere by his signs? Is he just, doing things to escape? So it would be the judge now to, you understand, assess the situation. But we said, the call of Jumhur is that he's still to be killed. He's still to be killed. The judge might press in that case, the person accept the shahada, that the person that, that adiyah be given instead of qisas. If he seems to be sincere in his Islam. If he seems to be sincere in his Islam. So, then he discussed another matter. So you might have those cases where, that you might find like in today's world, we said it's not unfortunate, Allah Musta'an, most of the Muslim countries that do not per se apply this type of law. Except for a few. So in those cases, so you might find in those that if you something that is applied, that you might find that, for example, in those cases, one is left with the ijtihad of the qadi. You might find a lot of, it may seem a lot of that it may vary one judge with another. It may vary. So in most cases, in these cases of these matters, we find that a khilaf between the ulama, that most of the judicial system would just follow one system. You take one view, and that would be the view that everyone after us can somewhat go by. So to make it not seem as if there seems to be confusion, it could be in one country, one judge say yes, another say no to cases like these. Or in even the same city, you have difference of opinion between the Qudat and their judgment, or even in one courthouse, then you might find different opinion between the judges. So they might just adapt one system and everyone go by it. So you have those cases that we said. Then we now continue from. Then he mentioned case concerned that in the same case concerned that he mentioned that you have like a dhimmi, the person who's a Muslim, then irtaddat that leave Islam. The person who that the opposite. You understand? The person kills someone, and then eventually, before everything is settled, the trial, he leave Islam.
Killed twice.
He killed twice. I know what you mean. So he's like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, or the fire into the frying pan, whichever one is worse. So even make a dimension concern. You make a distinction, which is good concerning that they mention that in that state, in those cases, the hal of a dhimmi is better than that. For example, that a murtad was to kill a dhimmi. A person was a murtad, an apostate. He was to kill a dhimmi, he kill a Christian, a Christian person. Then what's his case? Because both are really kuffar. But which is worse? As we can discuss concerns, over concern, he mentioned concerns that a dhimmi is better, he's looking at than that of a murtad. The one who's an apostate, his hal is worse than that of a dhimmi who's because the dhimmi, at least he's still upon his religion, which is al-kitab, but the person who's a murtad have left his faith with Islam to something else. So his state is worse. He's looked upon as worse compared to a dhimmi. So they kind of somewhat in these masail kind of go into these intrigue, these matters. So you might find that in these matters we can consider that especially those Qudat who live like in Andalus, we find that we say Andalus is what, Spain and those type of things, that they may have faced some of these masail more so than the ones who live in like in Sham and those places. You find that the Christians in Hijaz less compared to a place like Al-Andalus, where you find that Andalus, you find that a lot of non-Muslim were living side by side with the Muslim. So even some of them mention something of the ulama of Andalus in their fatwa regarding living with non-Muslim, they may be of people of experience. So scholars of that live in that era, because they were living with none, and you see Islam kind of somewhat was strong, then got weak. They have their experiences like us today. You understand? They kind of somewhat have lived in certain what we are going through, like today. To see Islam kind of somewhat how things changed. Aywa. But even though most of those mashaykh, most of those ulama of that era, they were what? Maliki. Most of the concerned of the mashaykh of Andalus, that they were Maliki. Aywa. So we'll go back to our book.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال المؤلف حفظه الله, chapter 3, page number 539, title Qisas for parts of the body and wounds. The Qisas for parts of the body and wounds is stated according to the Quran, the Sunnah, and the consensus of Muslim scholars. Allah exalted be He says, and we ordain for them therein a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a nose for a nose, an ear for an ear, a tooth for a tooth, and for wounds is legal retribution. Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat 45. Moreover, it is recorded in the two authentic books of Al-Bukhari and Muslim that when Al-Rubayyi broke a girl's incisor, the Prophet ﷺ said, the law prescribed in the book of Allah is qisas. Thus the ruling applying to the killing of a human soul is to be applied regarding parts of the body and wounds, provided that the aforementioned conditions for the validity of qisas are met. Such conditions involve that the victim's blood must be inviolable, the offender must be mature and sane.
So mentioned regarding al-isma, that we have 4 groups of people fall under that. So mentioned that last week, those 4 groups. We have Muslim, who else? Now concerned the al-isma, that those people are, that their blood are protected, their life. We have Muslim, dhimmi, musta'man, and
the slave.
Huh?
Prisoner of war.
Hey, not prisoner of war. That's a different. Hey. We have to have. أيوة مؤهد أيوة. So they mentioned that in the fifth category of people will be al-harbi, which are those Muslims, are those non-Muslims that we are at war with them, the Muslim at war with them. Then then they have no protection. There, during the time of war, there is no protection for them. أيوة.
Must be mature and sane. Both the offender and the victim must be equal as regards slavery or freedom, and the offender is not to be one of the victim's parents. On the other hand, the ruling inapplicable in the case of killing is inapplicable in the case of injuries of parts of the body and wounds. This is the general rule in this connection. Likewise, the condition that obligates the qisas for parts of the body and wounds is the same as that which obligates it for killing, namely premeditation. Accordingly, there is no qisas in cases of injury done by mistake or quasi-intentional ones. With regard to qisas for parts of the body, an eye is to be taken in retaliation for an eye, a nose for a nose, an ear for an ear, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, etc., the right organ for the right organ, and the left for the left. By the same token, a tooth of the offender is to be broken in retaliation for a similar tooth of the victim.
So today we have extractions. So if the person took your tooth out, then his tooth is extracted. That's off the way that as a form of punishment. They said that's one of the way of the punishment. That's not that you can go to, as we'll discuss, other things where you could
an eyelid for an upper eyelid for an upper eyelid, a lower eyelid for a lower eyelid, a upper lip for an upper lip, and a lower lip for a lower lip. This is because Allah exalted be He says, and for wounds is legal retribution. Surah Ma'idah ayat 45. This is because eyelids and lips have the upper and lower parts which should be considered in order to make the qisas carried out accurately. In addition, the same finger of the perpetrator is to be taken in retaliation for that of the victim, and a right hand for a right hand, a left hand for a left hand, a right elbow for a right elbow, and so on and so forth, as such parts of the body can be accurately distinguished. Likewise, a penis is to be taken in retaliation for a penis, as a penis has a specific end, so that qisas can be accurately exacted without transgression. This is indicated in the general meaning of the Quranic verse that states, and for wounds is legal retribution, Surah Al-Ma'idah 45.
So this kind of serve as a deterrent from these type of things. So a person understand that if you harm a person, you could be punished with similar. So it become a deterrent for the person to inflict these type of acts upon another, knowing that he could be served with the same thing. He could be served with the same thing as a form of punishment for him. So the person become more aware that if I do this to someone else, then this can be done to me if I did so unjustly. Aywa.
There are three conditions for the validity.
In today's society, we have concern if you do certain things, then it's just you just do jail time, and that's housing, clothing, medical, and everything. You understand? For Allah mustan.
There are three conditions for the validity of the qisas for parts of the body. First, there must be assurance that there will be neither injustice nor transgression. That is, cutting off the part of the body in retaliation must be from a specific joint or to a certain point. Thus, if there is no specific limit, retaliation will be impermissible. In other words, there is no retribution applicable for an unlimited wound, such as a deep flesh-cutting wound that reaches one's abdomen. There is no specific depth that can be pointed out. Similarly, there is no retribution applicable for fractures, not teeth breaking, such as breaking someone's tibia, femurs, arms, as accurate application of retaliation cannot be guaranteed. As for breaking someone's tooth, The qisas can be accurately applied by rasping the tooth of the perpetrator until it becomes just like that of the victim, broken by the former.
Okay, so regarding concern, so I mentioned regarding these are the conditions have to be, are these conditions in place regarding qisas, regarding atraf or ataraf, which is said is known that which is less than taking a person's life. So these type of qisas, they mention atraf, is in relation to those things which is less than a person's life. You didn't take the person's life, but then you have harmed or the person, then these rules apply. So they mentioned that certain cases it doesn't apply regarding that if a person was to, as we'll discuss, if he was to stab someone, then there's no qisas for stabbing. Okay, you can't measure those things. So certain type of injuries or certain type of injury you might commit on another person is difficult to measure it. So there's no qisas for those cases. And also if you break a person's bone, then to do so for another person that you could, you understand, there's no set punishment or there's no qisas for those ones, as is a possibility you could do injustice to the person that has violated that thing. So those ones that there's no qisas.
So in that case, what would it be? Just be diya?
It would be diya. Go to the next thing. Aywa.
Second, there must be equivalence between the part of the body of the offender and that of the victim in both name and location. That is, a right organ is not to be cut off in retribution for cutting off a left one, and vice versa. This applies to hands, legs, eyes, ears, and the like. This is because each of the aforementioned organs has a specific name and use, so they are different from each other. For example, a little finger is not to be cut off in retaliation for a ring finger, for each has a different name. Similarly, a main body part is not to be cut off for a secondary one.
Anyway, so there's similarities regarding those limbs from similarities in the limbs. Aywa.
Third, the body part of the perpetrator in question must be in the same condition as that of the victim regarding soundness and completion. So a sound, functional hand or leg is not to be cut off in retaliation for a paralyzed one. Likewise, a hand or leg with complete fingers is not to be cut off for a defective hand or leg. Furthermore, the qisas is not to be applied to a sound eye for a blind one, as they are not equal. Similarly, a sound, articulate tongue is not to be cut off in retribution for a speechless one, due to the inferiority of the latter. Contrarily, a defective organ can be cut off in retribution for a sound, complete organ. That is, a paralyzed limb can be cut off for a functional one, and a defective limb, such as one having incomplete fingers, can be cut off in retaliation for a sound one. This is because the defective organ is similar to the sound organ in respect of nature of creation, but they differ in quality. Moreover, by cutting off the defective organ, the one who has the right of qisas receives part of his right, so there will be neither injustice nor excessiveness. And if he is not satisfied, it is permissible for him to receive the diya indemnity instead.
Similar case for a person that regarding that hand to be cut off, the arm, but this person may have less fingers. For example, a person have less finger or more. Now, it's still removed because it's the arm that is the main bit will be removed and it is noticeable. So in those cases, even there may be a slight difference with a person have a leg, but he has a limp with one of his leg, and that's natural with him. Now, his leg also is removed based on, even though there's a slight deficiency or a slight deficiency in that leg, but it is still removed as the leg is the thing that is the main part. Aywa.
But you see in that case there, if someone had like their left leg was deformed by some way, but then also the leg of the victim was the left leg, wouldn't it? And then they said, because that leg is deformed.
If it's still functioning to some degree.
Yeah.
If it's the leg, you may have some type of deformity, but it's still functioning. If it's just the leg you need.
Yeah.
So if the leg is the thing where the person that you have lost his leg, where he's unable now to walk on both legs.
Yeah.
And the other person who did the crime, he have both legs, but one of them have some deficiency.
Yeah.
Then if the leg, then that leg is removed, even though it has a degree of deficiency.
Even if so, for instance, if it was the right leg that he took of the victim and his right leg was fine, but his left leg had a deficiency.
No, that would be right with right leg.
Yeah, but
That would be,
in that case there, but wouldn't it be like a little bit unjust or even more injustice to him if he was left with the leg that would also make his life more difficult?
Now we go back to the same leg. Then instead then that would be the discretion of the qadi to look at those cases. And it would be the discretion of the qadi to take that into consideration.
Okay.
That's what I mentioned regarding concerning the case of we discussed regarding of the person losing of the hand. That they mentioned regarding this that some mention that you don't remove both hands because you still have ability that he can function. He has some hand use. So if the person did stealing, you cut off his arm, then the next time you do it again and something, they go to his leg. So you still have a function of his, and as we'll discuss inshallah.
Sure. Qisas for wounds. The qisas is to be carried out for every wound that reaches the bones, as it can be exacted with neither injustice nor excessiveness, such as the wound of the head, face, upper arm, leg, thigh, and foot. This is because Allah exalted be, He says, and for wounds is legal retribution. Surah Ma'idah, ayat 45. As for the wounds that do not reach the bones, it is impermissible to apply the qisas to them, even if they are head wounds or the like. To illustrate, there is no retribution applicable as regards the case of the wound in the internal part of the abdomen, the chest, or the upper part of the chest, as the depth of the wound cannot be specified, so there is no assurance that there will be neither injustice nor excessiveness. In this regard, Ibn Majah related that the Prophet ﷺ said, in qisas, no qisas is to be executed in a skull fracturing wound, an abdomen deep flesh cutting wound, nor a back breaking and dislocating wound. Moreover, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, said,
Okay, in my book they kind of discuss, they explain each of those separately. You have it you have the Arabic? You have the Arabic. They discuss, okay, so they go straight to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. So since that's the case, then as for the hadith is mentioned there, that you have a discussion regarding that hadith. So the hadith that they mentioned in the Ibn Majah, that you'll find that the hadith by way of its isnad is da'if. So you have several reasons why they look at the hadith, but you find some of the ulama, all the hadith to be hasan based upon you have other narrations. But the hadith, the hadith is da'if. They mention fihi some of the ruwat who is Rishdain ibn Sa'd and others who are somewhat criticized. You have Rishdain ibn Sa'd, Muawiyah ibn Muhammad al-Ansari, and others who are somewhat, and others who are discussed. So some of the hadith to be da'if, but you find that Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, that the old hadith to be hasan, and based upon shawahid, I mentioned the hadith also in the Bayhaqi from the hadith of Talha. So based upon the shawahid, the old hadith, this hadith to be hasan, but some of the ulama, even though some mention, as for the hadith itself, it is da'if. But some may upgrade it to hasan because there's other shawahid of the hadith, other sahaba who have narrated the hadith. Aywa.
Moreover, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, said, the qisas for wounds is stated by the noble Quran, the Sunnah, and the consensus of Muslim scholars, provided that the retaliatory injury is just like the original one. That is, if the head of a person is fractured by someone, the injured person has the right to retaliate for it in the same way. But if it is unattainable to exact just, accurate retribution, as in the case of breaking an internal bone or any other kind of head fracture less in degree than a bone clearing wound, retribution becomes impermissible, and the diya, indemnity, becomes obligatory instead. As for applying the qisas in cases of striking someone with the hand, stick, a whip, or the like, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said, some scholars say that there is no retribution qisas in such cases, but there must be a discretionary punishment. However, it is reported that the rightly guided caliphs the companions and their followers maintain the permissibility of carrying out the qisas in such cases. The latter opinion is the one adopted by Imam Ahmad and other faqihs, and it is the one stated in the Sunnah of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the sound opinion.
So this is you said that this is the view of Ahmed, which is the latter. Which of the latter? Which of the two views? Huh? The first view is the view of which is the first one? أيوة. And the second view is أنه قصاص مشروع في ذلك وهو النص أحمد وغيره من الفقهاء. So which view is Ahmed's view?
Is that there is qisas?
That there is qisas in those cases that he mentioned regarding ad-darb with these objects. So you have a khilaf between the ulama on that matter. أيوة.
This is the sound opinion in this regard. In support of this view, Omar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said to his subjects, I do not send my governors to strike your bodies. By him whose hand my soul is, I carry out the qisas against whoever governor does so, as I have seen the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam applying the qisas to himself, related by Imam Ahmad.
Yeah, I mentioned a hadith, that hadith is Hassan. الشيخ أنه قول hadith here to be Hassan. أيوة.
This is when the governor impermissibly strikes his subjects, yet due to the scholars' consensus, there is no qisas against the governor if he legally strikes them. Moreover, Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, said, the Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki and late Hanbali scholars maintain that there is no retribution for a slap or strike. Some of them claim that there is a juristic consensus on this, exceeding the analogical deduction and the obligation stated in legal texts of the Quran and Sunnah, as well as the consensus of the Prophet's companions. Moreover, Allah exalted be, He says, and if you punish an enemy, O believers, punish with an equivalent of that which you were harmed. Surah An-Nahl, ayah 126. Hence, it is for the person slapped or struck to do the same to the person who has done it, returning like for like, a slap for a slap and a strike for a strike in the same spot and with the same tool or a similar one. This makes it so close to achieve the prescribed equality in qisas, reasonable and legally, as a discretionary punishment void of transgression and anything related to it. This is the opinion derived from the guidance of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the rightly guided caliphs, the analogical deduction, and the text containing the opinions of Imam Ahmad.
So that's concerned that matter, which is a discussion between the ulama. In the case of a person was to strike or to say not to hit someone, it was like fit to hit someone, or you punch someone, or you were to slap someone. Is there qisas in those cases? So you have a discussion of those who hold that it could be done, and and those who mention is in those cases not per se is not qisas but ta'zir. So ta'zir is a form of a punishment where it's for the discretion of the judge. It's left for the discretion of the judge, but it's a punishment, but it's left for the judge to make that discretion as to what that punishment is. But Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, that they discuss here regarding concern of those who that seem that more towards that there's a punishment for cases of punching or harming, hitting someone physically. So slapping, slapping someone across their face. The thing as mentioned, that are you able to actually strike that spot with that amount of, we call it? Force and all that. That's the thing. That's the thing now. Because Allah Mustan, that today now you go, you have these it's like a sports game. Is it? Yeah, people box each other. They slap. We call it boxing. They slapping across the face. So like a sports. I think now woman does it between women, huh? And yes, hey, Allah Mustan. Hey, Allah Mustan. It's crazy. But hey, so one person might slap someone across the face and he falls out, and the other person is still standing. So to put that to measure those things can be a bit difficult. Aywa.
New chapter, yeah?
أيوة.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله قال مؤلف حفظه الله, chapter 4, page 545, title Qisas, when a group kills an individual. When a group of people premeditarily and wrongfully kills an individual, the whole group is to be killed in Qisas according to the most preponderant opinion adopted by the Muslim scholars. May Allah have mercy on them. This opinion is based on the legal meaning of the Quranic verse in which Allah exalts be. He says, O you who have believed, prescribed for you is legal retribution for those murdered, and there is for you in legal retribution saving of life, O you people of understanding, that you may become righteous. Surah Baqarah, ayah 178 to 179. The aforementioned opinion...
that what is matter mentioned, okay, تفضل.
The aforementioned opinion is also the one unanimously maintained by the Prophet's companions to illustrate Sa'ad ibn...
So means that that's an ijma. He mentioned بالإجماع الصحابة على ذلك. So regarding concerning matter regarding al-qisas as a form of punishment in Islam, that is of those things which is, and that a person rejecting it is a serious matter. A person rejecting this type of punishment is a serious matter. It could lead to kufr. The person is aware concerning this matter and then reject it and rejects this, then this could lead to kufr. Because it's something which is, I mentioned that, there's clear text in the Quran, and also you have the Prophet Islam that, he also applied it, also as Salaf, they applied it, and ijma among the Salaf regarding concerning al-qisas. So a person said, okay, that we're going to undo this way of punishment, then it's something which is not easy. It's not even for a person to, and also a person to have the view, theoretically, that it doesn't suit this time that we're living in, this era, that it doesn't suit this era to implement these type of punishment. Then that is something which is serious, could lead to the person could lead to the person leaving the fold of Islam. Aywa.
To illustrate, Sa'id ibn Musayyib reported that Omar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu had killed 7 men of the people of Sana in retribution for killing one man. Omar said, if all the people of Sana had acted together in killing him, I would have killed them all in Qisas. It is also stated that other companions were of the same opinion, and they would kill a group of people in retribution for killing one person. There was none who disagreed with them, so there was a consensus on this juristic view.
And so they discussed concerning, so the matter that they're discussing, the matter was being discussed before, if one person kills another. Then in this case now, if those involved in the murder, that they were, was done collectively by a group of people that shared in this act. So what's the punishment? Is it where each also will be given the same punishment because each participated and was involved in the act, so they're collectively punished equally? As if it is a single person who have done the act. So this is the matter that is being discussed. They mentioned regarding concern of a matter that I mentioned, that Sa'id ibn Musayyib. Who is Sa'id ibn Musayyib? Sa'id ibn Musayyib, that you have like a clip that is going around where someone trying to discuss a matter, and they mentioned that the hadith is that somewhat they said that Sa'id, that a narration of Abu Hurairah or Sa'id ibn Musayyib and Abu Hurairah supposed to be. So the person said that isnad is broken. It is disconnected because Sa'id Musayyib did not meet Abu Hurairah. So he said that claim is incorrect, and that's the incorrect claim as Sa'id ibn Musayyib that he married the daughter of Abu Hurairah. Sa'id ibn Musayyib that he married the daughter of Abu Hurairah. Sa'id ibn Musayyib is considered to be that he's one of the top of he's of the top of the tabi'in, the kibar tabi'in, and he have met many of the companions. So Sa'id ibn Musayyib that is isnad, going back to Abu Hurairah, considered of the ones that are said to be of the Silsila al-Dhahabiyya, the one which are the golden chains. So Sa'id Musayyib is of those people said of the top in the league of the tabi'in. So a person to make a claim, maybe that was incorrect. That or they forgot, or made some error, but as an error.
So, sorry, did you say he did meet some of the companions?
Aim says, for sure. They mention here, so meet Abu Hurairah and others of that. So if you look in this knife, go to any books that you mention that he met several of the companions.
But he didn't meet Abu Hurairah.
Aim that the person's claiming, but that's incorrect.
Oh, it's just they claim that he didn't meet him.
And I mean, today, you understand what you said. Even Abu Hurairah was the relationship was even more personal, where he married into his family.
Oh,
he married into his family. So, there you are.
In this respect, the great Muslim scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, said, the companions and the majority of the faqihs unanimously agree on the ruling that a group of people are to be killed in retribution for killing one person, though it may appear to contradict the basic principles of qisas, namely saving of lives. They maintain so as not to let the non-application of the qisas to a group of murderers be the pretext for further conspiracy to bloodshed. Moreover, Ibn Rushd said, the wisdom behind the application of the qisas for murder is to void further murder as stated in the Quran. Thus, if a group of conspirators is not killed in retribution for killing an individual, people will band together in killing. Another reason is that the retaliation and deterrence are not attained except through killing all the murderers in qisas. In this regard, a group of murderers is killed for killing an individual, provided the action of each member of the group is fatal. In other words, to kill them all in qisas is a condition that all of them have participated in killing the victim, and that the deed of each one of them has been enough to cause death if done separately. So each of them is considered a separate murderer. Even if the deed of one of them is not separately fatal, and they have worked together in killing the victim, the qisas, namely killing them all, is obligatory, as the indirect actions of some of them have supported the direct actions of the rest, resulting in the murder. Similarly, if a person is forced by someone to kill another, it is obligatory to apply the qisas for murder to both of them, i.e. to kill both the murderer and the one who compelled him to do it, provided the conditions for the validity of fulfilling the qisas are met. This is because the murderer meant to preserve his own life by killing another, and the one who has compelled him to do it has been the instigator and direct cause of certain death. However, if the murder is committed by a minor or an insane person due to the order of someone, only the latter who has given the order is to be killed in qisas.
Why?
Because he's taken advantage of him, basically.
Another reason?
They're exempt.
There are ones who are. There you are.
Of course, yeah.
So these are showing that cases we find that cases where more than one or a group of people could be killed for one due to their level of involvement. So sometimes the level of involvement in those cases where they were all equal participant of killing that person. 3, 4 people involved in a case where each of them had guns and each of them shoot at that person and shot that person. So all of them are equal because all of them shot the person. All 4 had guns and open fire on the person. So all 4 are equal in that case. Or our next case where one load the gun, tell the person to go and kill the person and gave him the gun. So in that case, he can be killed. So you find that cases where the person at times that may not be directly carried out the act, but they were instrumental in that act being carried out or being done. There you are.
So even though intentions basically in our terms we call conspiracy, for example. So even if I told the person, listen, he's going to be there at this time.
It may vary. It may vary on your level of involvement.
Gave him that information, then I will be killed as well.
It varies.
It depends.
Depending on your level of involvement. You might, that's the person that he just maybe gave the location, but you weren't per se.
Wait for them to kill him. They needed to know where he was. Only I have that information.
But is it intentionally given that location?
Yeah, we say given that
for him to be killed. Yeah, then they couldn't have done without it.
So it all depends. The judge will look at the case and see your level of your intent. You understand? To see the level of the intent and how it played a role in that person death. Where the person was not, he was like a conspirator, you understand, who are part of the planning and all those things, even though, you understand, you're the part of the planning and the exit, you understand, and give certain, you know, so the judge will make that call, and the person could be killed.
See, if the person is forced to do, like, for yourself, to be forced to do an act of kufr or something for yourself, right? But for somebody else, you can't kill that person. You're forced, but can you? Is that anything? Like, you can't hit them, you can't attack them, you can't do anything to another person. Like, yeah, like being forced to do that.
If the person is forced, yeah, then of the thing that because instead, so you have the huququllah is a bit different from huququn nas. So with huquq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have more of a leeway. As for the people, then you give the people their rights, and if you remove that right, then you are liable.
So the ability to be patient and die,
So either person that either you have the option of, you understand, if you're forced not to carry it out, but then it means that, you understand, you have to bear the consequence.
You're going to bear the consequence anyway.
Huh?
You're going to die anyway.
No, Adam said so it could be.
If I don't kill him, you're going to kill me. If I kill him, I'm going to get killed anyway.
So it could be in that scenario. It could be in that sense, depending on and in those cases of force, as we said, that consider a person who is forcing, depending who's the person actually forcing you. You understand? So a person that's not even a person, I'm forcing you, that may not be considered, because there's no authority that I have over you. You understand? There's no real authority that I have over you, so you could have refused, but you still went along, knowing that I have not that strong authority over you. I'm not threatening your life. I don't have ways to, you understand, to. So of the person forcing you, then it's to look at other factors.
I know you probably don't have the answer, but what if they turn around and kill the person who's forcing them? And then their excuse is basically for self-defense. He was forcing me to kill him, and he was going to kill me if I didn't kill him, so I killed him.
So the judge looked and said, then those cases will be looked at from a separate. It'll be looked at separate. Was it actually self-defense or not? You understand? So it may not be amdan. It may be of a lesser degree, because you're taking that person life. So any person's life that is taken, there's some level of accountability. But it's not in every case it is qisas. You understand? But there's a sense of something needs to be some accountability. Aywa?
This is because the murderer has just been a tool used by such a person, so the qisas is to be applied only to him as the real cause of the murder, not to be one used as a tool, not the one used as a tool. Likewise, if the murderer is a legally accountable person, i.e. adult and sane, but unaware of the prohibition of killing, such as those brought up in non-Islamic countries, the qisas is to be applied only to the instigator.
Sometimes ulama, like in contemporary books, they mention a person who was brought up in a non-Muslim country. Like the world that we're living in today, that and in the sense of the person who was brought up in that non-Muslim country is not fully aware of Islamic rules and law and principles. But in the world that we're living in today, people living in most of the Muslim countries, you understand, do understand enough about Islam to know the basic stuff. So you will find that people live in the people who live in the So that's why that certain rules that give like an exemption to people who live in a non-Muslim country. You understand that the assumption, you understand, is that they don't understand Islam that very well. But you might find that but in today what we live in is in a sense that even the basic stuff of Islam. So that per se, what we live in, the world that we live in today, that may not be the case. But sometimes the ulama of past may have mentioned those things in their book, because they said the non-Muslim now was still for them like an unknown. On this, you understand, unknown lands. Then, you understand, in the past. But today, that's not the case. Today, it's not the case. You understand that the Muslims who live in the West, or even West, even those more remote, Central America, because they have that they're not of Islam, you said most Muslims have access to know the basic things of Islam. They have access to know the basic things of Islam. And with social media and all those things, television and books, they're widespread. So that type of thing that by living in the non-Muslim land, you understand certain things basic. That's not the case. That's not the reality today. Aywa.
It is not to be applied to the perpetrator due to his ignorance of the prohibition of killing. So the qisas is to be applied to the real cause of the murder, namely the instigator. On the other hand, if the one ordered to murder is a legally accountable person and aware of the prohibition of killing, then the qisas is to be applied to him as well, as he has committed the murder without right. In this regard, the Prophet ﷺ says, no person is to be obeyed in a matter of disobedience to the Creator. This is the rule to follow, whether the accessory is a ruler, a master, or whoever. Moreover, the one
could be a parent. Could be a parent and the likes. Aywa.
Moreover, the one who enjoins such deeds of disobedience to Allah should be discretionarily punished according to what the Imam of Muslims, the ruler, or the one in authority judges. This is because such an accessory is considered to have committed an act of disobedience to Allah, so he has to receive a discretionary punishment as a means of deterrence.
So you have those cases now. We find that in the world that we're living in today, to some extent, of people forcing others to do certain type of crime, could be from those in authority. You know what I mean by those in authority? From those who are at the top.
Yeah.
You understand? So, what you do in those cases?
Just leave.
Hey, what you do in those cases?
As you said, the principle of preserving life.
Hey,
If you have to die, you have to die, because you're preserving life.
But I'm saying to you, that's what we're saying, that those things sometimes occur. Where the person that is given the instruction, they are from the highest level in authority, high level in authority. But they are the ones who are giving those instructions. Now, you go against them. It's not these, that's different.
About them, but their manager at safety is told them to do something that's haram, don't do it.
Aye.
They're talking about the soul.
Salam Mustan. That's, hey. I don't understand what we remember those things.
Furthermore, if two persons conspire...
Like sometimes, I didn't get to see it though, but what's going on in Palestine by those Zalimun, upon the people of Palestine, that Saqaba didn't give much attention, but one brother said, because sometimes that we're trying to, I said, sometimes it's best that just be silent if you have anything good to say. Now about certain things, that and way of what you're going to say. So, and that's why I find that sometimes that some of the people of so-called, the people are see as people of the Sunnah, sometimes they make people attack the Sunnah because of how we approach things. Yeah. So the person was saying that we're seeing that with the Muslim, the people of Sunnah, that we have no concern for the general mass of the Muslim and their suffering. You understand? Because sometimes the person of Sunnah, sometimes we say silly things. When we're supposed to be silent, we speak. And when we do speak, you come with the wrong people. We say the wrong things or give the wrong impression. Now, so sometimes just be silent. If you can't say good, just keep silent. So this person is saying that he said that what's going on, and people we call it protesting, like in the streets in London or wherever in Europe about what's going on in Palestine. That it said, look at the Muslims, look at how many people participate in the protests. All those people making fajr. Those are two different issues. Those type of qiyas, you understand? Are you trying to, you understand? If you're against protests, then say I'm against protests. And leave it at that. You understand? But equate between fajr and you understand? The people who are going out, leave them. Just say what you have in your sense. So sometimes just leave it. Just leave it. Now, and same say, so that sometimes that make sometimes that qiyas is not qiyas. It's in the wrong place. Just be silent. So Allah mustan.
So,
Aywa.
furthermore, if two persons
And you have the next one, a person that was born in Palestine, the Muslim, that the Muslim need to look back. Yes, we all need to look to ourselves, but the Muslims try to, they take situation train when everyone start to make tahajjud. You understand? Just be silent. Just be silent. Just be silent. You understand? There you are.
Furthermore, if two persons conspired and premeditatedly killed someone unjustly, and one of the two does not meet the conditions for the application of the qisas, it is to be applied only to the other one who meets them, i.e. he is to be killed in qisas, as he has participated in a murder intentionally and wrongfully. That is, the qisas for murder, namely capital punishment, is not to be applied to his partner due to the absence of the conditions obligating qisas on him, not due to the absence of the reason for qisas. Accordingly, the qisas is to be applied to the one who meets the conditions obligating it. In this connection, if someone holds a person for someone else to be killed, the killer is to be killed in qisas, and the other, who has held the victim, is to be given life imprisonment.
So what if the person, when it mentions about doesn't meet the condition, what if the person at the time when they conspired, it didn't meet the condition, but then after a while, before the trial of
It meets the condition.
he meets the condition.
It's going to say, well, look at the time that the act was committed.
Okay.
Because those things can vary. You understand? At time, it could be for or against a person. So it means, because that's the part of the discussion, that it could go the opposite way at times.
So he was in the right condition when the act was committed, then he went majnun.
Some said, then some mentions he looked at the time of when he committed the act. The time that he committed the act. And some might go the other way. Some said those matters, you have like a khilaf between those matters, that a person, when he committed the act, he was okay. Then after a while, he become majnoon and the likes. What to be done? You understand?
SubhanAllah. The ruling applied to the group killing an individual is the same ruling applied in the case of injuries to parts of the body and wounds caused by a group to an individual. To clarify, if a group of people participates in damaging or cutting off a part of the body of a person or wounding him, the qisas, namely a similar injury, is to be applied to every member of the group, provided their actions in the crime are undistinguished from one another. For example, if they put a piece of iron on the hand of a person and begin to press heavily on it until his hand is cut off, then the hands of all of them are to be cut off in qisas. This is based on the fact that two witnesses came to Ali ibn Abu Talib radiallahu anhu and testified against someone that had stolen. Thereupon Ali ordered to amputate the hands of the thief as a prescribed punishment. After that day, the two witnesses came to him along with another person and said, "This is the real thief, as we were wrong concerning the first one." Ali ibn Abu Talib rejected their testimony concerning the second man and obligated them to pay an indemnity to the first, and said to them, "If I thought you had intentionally testified against the first, I would have amputated your hands." This narration is related by Al-Bukhari in Al-Mu'allaq form and related by others as well. This incident indicates that qisas, namely cutting their hands off, would have been applied if they had intentionally testified against the man. This is also supported by analogical deduction regarding the case when a group of people kills an individual, in which case the qisas is killing the murderers. The qisas is estimated according to the consequence of the offence, whether the consequence is death or minor result. This is because the resulting effect of an offence is the actual crime. To illustrate, if someone cuts off a finger of another and the wound causes other fingers or the entire hand to be cut off due to gangrene, for example, then the similar hand of the offender is to be cut off in qisas, just not the fingers. Moreover, if the injury spreads to the rest of
Yeah,
the
that part
body,
is clear, huh?
yeah.
Right.
Moreover, if the injury spreads to the rest of the body until it causes death of the victim, the perpetrator is to be killed in qisas for murder. It is impermissible to apply the qisas for an injury or a wound before it heals to verify that there is no further damage. This is due to the hadith narrated by Jabir radiallahu anhu, in which he said, a man was wounded and he wanted the qisas to be applied to the offender. However, the Prophet ﷺ forbade applying qisas until the culprit until the wounded person had wholly recovered. Related by Ad-Darqutni and other compilers of hadith. This is surely in the best interest of the victim, as it verifies that the wound will neither affect the function of any other part of the body nor cause death. Therefore, if the claimant opposes this ruling and exacts the qisas before he wholly recovers, then his wound spreads and affects other parts of the body. He has no right to seek any kind of qisas for the effects of the injury. In this regard, Amr ibn Shu'ayb, on the authority of his father and his grandfather respectively, narrated, a man stabbed another in the knee with a horn. So the injured man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, I want to apply the qisas, i.e. to cause the offender an equal injury. The Prophet ﷺ said, only when you are recovered. Then the man came again before recovering and said, I want to apply qisas. So the Prophet ﷺ enabled him to execute the qisas. After that, the man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of Allah, I am limping. Thereupon the Prophet ﷺ said, I forbade you to apply the qisas until you verify you are wholly recovered, but you disobeyed me, so Allah disgraced you. Thus you have no right to ask for qisas for the lameness that afflicted you.
Because the qisas already been done.
Yeah. Then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ forbade executing qisas for injuries until the injured person was completely recovered. Related by Imam Ahmad and Darqutni. Hereby Muslims come to know the virtues of the Sharia, Islamic law, and realize the perfect justice and the broad mercy it encompasses. True are the words of Allah, exalted be He who says, and the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. None can alter His words, and He is the hearing, the knowing. Surah Al-An'am, Ayah 115. So woe to those who replace the sacred Sharia with unjust, innovated, defective, imperfect laws. Allah, exalted be He, says about such people and their innovated laws, wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange. Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 50. All praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds.
Alhamdulillah. So that's the end of that discussion, inshallah ta'ala. Then we go to Diyat. Will be still a part of this discussion. So we'll stop for today and continue next week, inshallah ta'ala.